Hello everybody, my name is Ian and this is my VR30 Q50 all-wheel drive, and today we are going to be doing a water pump job as well as the water inlet, which is right next to the water pump as well. I'm not focusing too much on this VR30 today. I'm actually doing the water pump on a different Q50, so I'm kind of just getting the lay of the land with my own Q50. I've already done this job myself, so this will just be a repeat. So I figured I'd record it, post it on YouTube because there's no other videos on it. Exactly sure exactly what tools we'll need. I don't really remember from the last time I've done this, so I'm bringing all of my metric sockets. You're gonna need all metric. There is no standard sockets. You're gonna need a jack. You got to get under the car and undo the bottom hose. You don't need power tools. I'm just bringing power tools to make this job a little quicker, a little easier. One of these will really help you. This will make the job 10 times faster if you have one of these electric ratchets. We've fast forwarded to the point. We are at the next Q50. Still here with my Q50. So we are doing the water pump. And as you can tell, before I even get over there, it's not looking too good. So obviously the inlet, which is right here, the plastic inlet has degraded. The VR30 comes with a plastic water inlet, very weak material. Shout out to Z1 Motorsports. They sell a billet aluminum water inlet, which we're going to be replacing with today. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get on with it. We got the water pump gasket, which you have to buy separately. Don't forget about that. We got Q50 belt from Z1 Motorsports. Nissan grade coolant, also from Z1. That's 50/50, pre-diluted. Here we have, this is the lower cooler neck, which I want to show y'all. This is what Z1 Motorsports has done to upgrade / fix that issue. So I'll show y'all when it comes out, but this is the billet aluminum water inlet. There is a gasket for this little bag here, as well as the port for the overflow container. We have the water pump, obviously. More coolant, because this car drinks coolant like a fucking, it's like an alcoholic, but on coolant. And then here we have the blend door actuator, which I'll be doing in a separate video. Engine beauty cover off. Now we're going to take this off here, which is just a bunch of push clips. You can use a flathead, or if you have a push clip tool, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and pull that out. Once we got those clips out, go ahead and grab it, pull up, should come right out. This is your little air shroud kind of thing that runs into your intakes. Just put this aside. This won't be going on until the very end. Next point of attack, we're going to be taking out these big ass air boxes. We got a 10mm here, 10mm under the plastic here on both sides. Once you do that, you can unclip these, and we'll go from there. As far as to drain the coolant out, they have a very small screw valve that you would use your hand to undo it, and it doesn't come out very quickly. Being said, before you move on with any of the top end stuff here, go ahead and jack up the vehicle and get the coolant draining, because it takes a very long time. Best spot to jack up the vehicle is going to be from the driver's side, because the drain is on the passenger side, meaning all the fluid's going to be pushed that way. And you're going to look for the jack point. Just this little pinch weld right here, and there's actually a thicker spot. That's where you're going to want to put your jack. Get your wheel about this far off the ground. If you are under the vehicle, you're going to take off this under tray, which is just a bunch of 10mm bolts. Once you get that under tray off, we can start working on draining this coolant out. The under tray is a pain in the ass to take off. That's why my car doesn't have an under tray. I mean, there is a possibility of damage happening because of no under tray, but that thing, it's just not fun to keep taking out over and over. On the passenger side, I'm sorry, wrong place. There's your twist valve right here. So you're gonna want to twist this lefty loosey, and the coolant will start draining out of here. let's go ahead and get that done. I want to go ahead and take off this coolant cap for the overflow and this main coolant cap here, so that way the flow down to the bottom is going to be as best as it can be. Like I told y'all earlier, the flow is extremely slow coming out of here. I'm pretty sure you can completely unscrew this if you wanted to, and it will drain fast, but it will also make a mess. And this isn't my vehicle to make a mess on. Once you got the coolant draining out, that's good to go for now. It'll take quite some time for all this coolant to come out, all the stuff in the engine, blah, blah, blah. So go ahead, take out those 2 10s we were talking about on both sides, and then unclip these like this. And then you can pull, the back part sits in a little clip, so you can pull this back part up and it disconnects. And you can do that on both sides. So you undo the clips and then pull up the back piece. Once you get the back piece out, the front piece will come up, and it's on a little rubber grommet down there. So you kind of got to just give it some force, and don't be worried if it makes some crazy noises. And it comes out. As you can see, it sits on a little rubber grommet down there. So you get that out, make sure you keep it on your sides. Go ahead and take this one out. That one over here. Going to, I believe you can leave these intakes in if you'd like. And I honestly think we are going to leave them in. So you can leave this part of the intakes in. You don't really need to unplug the MAV sensors. If you wanted to take these out to make the job easier on yourself, you absolutely can. There is an 8mm bolt. Hard to see. There's an 8mm bolt down at the bottom of this intake tube here, and if you get a long extension and a swivel, you can get on there and take that 8mm bolt out on either side. This one's much more visible, and this is actually the turbo right here. So if you undo that bolt, you can take the whole intake off. You can clean your MAV sensors and do what you need to do, but this one looks to be all right. So while you're doing this all and the coolant's still draining, make sure you're keeping an eye on it, because like I said, this car takes a lot of coolant, meaning this little 7-quart container could fill up all the way to the brim. So just keep an eye on it. So now we are going to attack this upper radiator hose here, because I'm going to be removing the radiator out. So go ahead and get yourself some pliers to undo this clip, and pull this whole piece out. I want to wait just a little bit longer to take this hose off. I already took it off, but it did start dripping coolant all over the radiator fan. Once you get that tube off, we'll go ahead and attack this tube. You can leave it on this part of the thermostat, but take it off of this part of the overflow, because we're going to be taking this overflow out. Get that tube off, just put it to the side. I actually put it in the dipstick. And then we're going to go ahead and take off 1, 2, 3, and 4 10mm bolts to take off the overflows, because this whole piece is going to come out with the radiator. Once we get those 4 10mm bolts out, we can go ahead and, go ahead and pull this up. It's still got coolant in it, so we're just going to leave it here for just a minute. This one we're going to pull out of the way, but this hose down here has a clamp. So the hose that runs off of your intercooler coolant goes down, and there's a little zip tie right there that we're going to need to snip. So that way we can grab this whole overflow and the tube, because we're going to keep it connected, and we can just push it aside for the time being. So I'm going to go ahead and get in there and cut that zip tie, which is right there, and I will get back to you guys. So those zip ties I was talking about are on little clips, which you can remove. That clip there, that clip there, I already went ahead and cut it. I'll just put some new zip ties on afterward. Go ahead and take this reservoir. There is coolant in it, don't worry about it. And we're just gonna pull it up, and we'll put it over there for the time being. This one still has coolant in it, so we're still gonna be waiting on this one for a little bit of time. Time being, we have to remove this piece here. This piece is for the, it's kind of like a radiator cover. As you can see, the radiator's under there. So we have, let's see, we got a 12mm and another 12mm, and we have 2 10mm bolts. Take these 2 10s out, those 2 12s out, and this piece of metal will come right out. Now that we have all those bolts out, those 2 12s, those 2 10s, we're gonna go ahead and grab this piece here. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 2 clips. There's a clip there and a clip there we gotta pop out really quick. Gonna actually just undo the clip on both sides and pull the wire out. Once you get those wires out, pull up on this little piece here. It's kind of a pain in the ass, and it'll come right out. And it's kind of hot because it's been sitting in the sun. Once that we got that piece out, we can go ahead and remove. So this hose here is connected to the fan, and the fan's coming out. As you can see, it's moving the whole radiator. So there's a 10mm here, and there is the exact same 10mm down here. So you're gonna have to get under the car to get that one, unless you can see it. And then this one as well. 10mm bolt is gonna be right here at the bottom of the engine, just like the one at the top. Go ahead and undo that. All right, now we have this tube removed here. It's kind of floppy, it's in the way. This tube came back and got in the way. So that's close to everything from up top. We're gonna go ahead and get down on the floor, and I'm gonna show you a few of the things that we have to remove from the bottom. All right, we're down here at the bottom now. And hooked up to the radiator, there is 2 transmission cooler lines. So you have transmission fluid running through the bottom of your radiator to keep it somewhat cool. Now when we take the radiator out, these tubes have to come off the radiator. But since it's hooked up to the transmission, you have to get something to plug these. So I'm gonna show you what I've done to make a plug for these tubes. Go ahead and grab some of this tubing. It's like boost line tubing. I put a screw in the end of it, nice and tight. I got 2 of them because there's 2 transmission lines, also with a bolt in it. You're going to keep these handy. You're going to want to get under there and undo those lines and replace it with these until we're done with the job. So there's one of the transmission lines at the bottom of the radiator, and the other one goes over there. And we're actually going to take them off, both, from right here, and then we're just going to put our little tubes on there. Make sure you get a drain pan under you, because there is going to be a little bit of transmission fluid. Go ahead and undo this hose clamp, and right when you pull this tube off, go ahead and replace it with your little handmade blocker thing. We'll get there. It's a little messy, so if you want to wear some rubber gloves, I would. Gonna go ahead and pull this tube off. If it wants to come off, twist it a little bit, get a little bit of help coming off, and then it should just come right off. And there's your transmission fluid. Gonna get our tube, and we're gonna put it right over. It is gonna block any more transmission fluid from coming out, because you don't want to lose transmission fluid. And get your other line. Try to be as quick as you can. And boom. All right, now we can let a little bit of that transmission fluid drain out of the radiator, because it's gonna come out one way or another. We have our tubes blocked, so no more transmission fluid can come out. In the meantime, we're gonna come over here and we're gonna unplug our fan, which is this big ass plug right here. Once you unplug that, just put it aside for the time now, because we're gonna be taking this whole fan out. Mention, there's also going to be a sensor under here. I believe it is coolant temperature. Hang on a second. Yes, so there's a little plug right there. You're gonna want to unplug it, and there's a bunch of clips that go up to the top you're gonna have to undo. This line here, it kind of gets stuck. It's stuck on a clip down there. Let me get the clip out. Once you get that clip out, or those few clips, you can pull up this wire. This is to that sensor. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clips on it. It's also connected to the fan, so it has to come off either way. Once you get that out, put it aside, stick it over here, and we're going to continue on. Getting a little full here on coolant. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this out of the way. A little bit of coolant on the floor, we'll be all right. And put the other one under there. All right, so this thing's pretty much emptied out, pretty much. And we're gonna go ahead and remove this clip right off of the inlet here. This is the broken inlet, and it is leaking like hell. So go ahead and take that tube off right there. Little hose clamp, and then a little bit of elbow grease, and it should come off. Go, got the hose off. We can pull this whole unit out. Might be a little bit of liquid still in there. Go ahead and put that to the side. I'll go back in when we're done. We have the reservoirs out and a few other things out. We have a much better look at the water pump. Now this doesn't look too bad, but definitely is in need of replacing, as you can see, of the disaster of coolant, and the inlet as well, which we will see better very shortly. You're gonna wanna go ahead and take off this 10mm bolt here and the other 10mm bolt down there, so that way we can get this little plastic shroud off to make it easier for the belt, because we are gonna be replacing the belt on this vehicle as well. All right, once we get this little plastic piece out here, it's gonna there's a wire that goes down, you can't take it out, so we're just gonna have it kind of hanging out here for now. There's that bolt down there, you can kind of see the hole, and there's the bolt over here. Right there, you got to take out, and then this piece is free to move around. You can go ahead and take this hose clamp off here. You can just push it down a little bit, because we're gonna have to remove this tube off anyway. Yep. Right, you're gonna want to go ahead and remove this lower radiator hose clip thing, and then you can pull off the lower radiator hose, and then the radiator will be ready to go ahead and slide out. Once we have those radiator hoses out, the last thing we need to do is remove the AC condenser from the radiator. So there is a 10 millimeter here, 10 millimeter there, and that is it. We got our two 10 millimeter bolts out of the radiator. Now at the bottom, these two are the AC condenser and the radiator connected to a little bracket. I'm not gonna be able to show it, it's a little blurry down there, but it's on both sides. So as you're pulling the radiator out, just make sure that you have removed your AC condenser from the bracket, so your radiator will come out by itself, because the AC compressor has hard lines that are hooked up, and to remove the Freon from the vehicle is a complete waste of time and a complete waste of money. And the hard lines from the AC condenser kind of keep you from lifting the condenser up, so you have to do a lot of fidgeting. Now, there it is. Take your breaker bar right there, and it is going to go towards the passenger side. And when you pull, it'll relieve tension off the belt. Once you relieve tension off the belt, you can take the belt off. The belt has been removed. Now we're gonna start tacking that water pump. Put the belt to the side. The thing we are going to do is take this hose off here, which is that easy. Put it aside. All right, now let's start here with this water inlet. So we have, looks like 3 10 millimeters, 1, 2, and a third on the bottom, and then this piece should come out. We got our old water inlet removed, whole bunch of gunk around it. Obviously it was broken. Now we are going to start attacking this water pump. It's a bunch of 12 millimeter bolts. It's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts, I believe, 8 12 millimeters. So go ahead and take those out and that will come right off. Be aware, when you pull the final bolts out of the water pump and you start taking it off, it's gonna make a mess. All the water is still sitting in the engine right there in the water pump. So when you pry that water pump off, make sure you got some drain pans ready under there. You get those bolts removed, go ahead and get in here. You're just gonna wanna pry this thing off. Now it's already dripping, so just be ready. And there it goes. Go ahead and get that guy out of there and move on. Make sure you go ahead and remove this gasket. Oh, it's falling apart. Ew. Oh. And we're not gonna need that. Definitely don't, you cannot reuse this. Do not think you can replace the water pump and not replace this. It has to be done. Throw it away. We have everything out. We are done with the removal procedure. Great job if you made it this far. So now we are going to go ahead and clean up this area because we have to apply new gaskets. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up and I'll get back to you guys when I'm done. All right, once you have everything cleaned up, as good as it can be, we're gonna start here. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. So you got 3 10 millimeter bolts going back in, 1, 2, 3. Got them sitting right here. And we're gonna put our new aluminum Z1 Motorsports water neck in. This thing looks quite nice. We have our new water neck installed, looking fresh as ever from Z1 Motorsports. Now that that is done, we're gonna go ahead and start attacking the water pump. Now get your gasket, go ahead and line it up on your water pump. Another thing that I cannot stress enough, we got our water pump in and we got to put our 8, 9, however many bolts back in now. So Infinity manual calls for 21 foot-pounds, I think. I'm not very sure. I'm gonna go ahead and do my research and look into it, but I believe it's 21 foot-pounds. I will confirm and I'll let you guys know when I get to it. I would definitely suggest putting these to spec, torquing these to spec, because it's in the timing cover, and if you accidentally break a bolt, you're gonna be out of a lot of money and a lot of time. This timing cover job is a pain in the ass. I've done the timing cover job on this car before and it's not something we need to do again. So 21 foot-pounds, all these bolts, go ahead, put them in, and you start putting the belt back on. Back into the manual to make sure I was right, and yes, 21 foot-pounds, all the water pump bolts, get them in, get her going. I went ahead and put the belt back in. If y'all wanna pause and get a good look at the orientation of the belt, do so now. Once you know your belt is in good, we're gonna start putting this radiator back in. Back, we're gonna be putting on this little plastic piece here, these two 10 millimeters. You got a 10 millimeter here, 10 millimeter here, and it lines up here, and there's another one over there. Go ahead and get that plastic thing back on. I went ahead and put in these two bolts for the plastic, and now we are going to start putting this radiator back in. When you're putting the radiator back in, don't forget your AC condenser has two brackets on the bottom of it, and that has to sit inside of the bracket on the radiator. Don't forget that part, or else your AC condenser is going to be in here wiggling around and you're going to hear it. So yeah, go ahead and let's start getting that radiator back in. We got our radiator back in place. It definitely was a pain in the ass to get it back in those brackets. Gonna go ahead and put these two 10 millimeter bolts back in for the AC condenser hooked up to the radiator, 1 and 2, and we will go from there. We got our two bolts in. We're gonna go ahead and plug in our fan, which is right here. Oh, sorry. This is our fan here. You only have to plug in one fan. There is two fans in this car, but they run off the same plug. Go ahead, plug that in. You know what? That might not even be the fan. It's something, but you do need to unplug that. And we're gonna plug it back in. And then this wire, which goes down to that coolant temperature sensor, go ahead and just stick it on down there, and we'll get under the car to finish that part. But you can go ahead and start putting these clips back in place. Once you get that wire plugged in, we're gonna get this upper radiator hose on, we're gonna get the lower radiator hose on, and then we're gonna get those two transmission cooler lines hooked back up. And when we get to that point, we'll resume the video. People, we have our upper radiator hose on. I just put on our overflow hose. We have our lower radiator hose put on. I just pulled these reservoirs back over. I'm gonna go ahead and put this tube back onto here. We'll get a clamp on that in just a minute. We're gonna go ahead and put these four 10 millimeter nuts back on. And once we get these 10 millimeter bolts back on, I will get right back to you. All right, once you got them 4 bolts in, or 4 nuts, we're gonna go ahead and put our little guard thing back in. Holy shit, it's hot. If you leave it in the sun, be careful, that was hot. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and put this in, which was the two 12 millimeter bolts on either side, and then the two 10 mils, the one that I upsettingly broke. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and put that in and we'll go from there. All right, we got our little chunk of structure back in. Next, well, we can go ahead and put this radiator cap back on here. Not gonna need to take that off again. Screw that on. Now, I believe we can go ahead and start putting the intakes back in. So, if you don't remember from when we pulled out the intakes, there's 2 clips. There's a clip here, and on the other piece there's a clip. On the other intake thing, there's another clip, which goes here. And then there's 2 10 millimeter bolts, one there on both sides, and the intakes will go in. But just remember, the intakes have this little knob on the bottom of it, and that knob sits inside that little rubber grommet right there. So when you stick the piece of the intake in, make sure it goes into there, as well as these little clips at the bottom, which you can kind of see, also rest into these little slots. So we'll go ahead and put the intakes back in and we'll go from there. Got the intakes back in. We're gonna go ahead and put these 4 bolts back in location. We got one there. We got one here. And there's one. We got our 4 bolts in, the intakes. And we are pretty much done here. We got a few beauty covers to put back on. But what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna start filling the system up with coolant. After I put this clip on, obviously. I'm gonna fill it up with coolant, make sure there's no leaks, start the car up, and then we'll start putting beauty covers back on. We're filling the system up with coolant. I took this cap back off to let some air flow through. This is my burping kit. I'm gonna let this off until the coolant comes up to the top, and then I will put the cap back on whenever it fills up. And it looks like it's getting pretty close. Maybe.
Coolant has reached the top. As you can see, it started coming out a little bit. Make sure that cap's nice and tight. And then make sure this is not going down anymore. You can push on these tubes a little bit here to get some of the bubbles out. And then you're gonna wanna fill this up just a little bit for now. And then you're gonna wanna start up the engine and let the air burp out of the system. And we don't do it on this one because of the overflow line. So we're gonna do it through the overflow, and however much extra we have, we'll just pump it out. So let's go ahead and start burping. I wanna make sure that the vehicle is down on the ground. You want the coolant to be, well, you want the vehicle to be flat so the coolant can make its way throughout the whole entire engine. So we're gonna take out these drain pans and make sure there's nothing else under the vehicle, which it doesn't look to be. Realized, thank God, before I started the engine, I forgot to plug in the MAV sensors. Do not forget to plug in the MAV sensors. The engine will be all types of crazy. These go in right down in there on both sides. All right, guys, we are all ready to start this thing up. It is a 2018, so it does have remote start. I believe we can remote start with the hood open so we can watch it crank. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, guys. Doesn't look like it's gonna start with the hood open. I also don't have remote start myself, so I don't know how this remote start system works. Anything? Anything? All right, well, we're gonna start the engine from the inside of the car. Guys, we have our engine started up. Now we're gonna go inside. We're gonna turn the heat up to max, so that way the thermostat opens up, and we are gonna start getting this coolant to run throughout the system. We got our heat on full blast. Now we're just gonna wait, make sure there's no bubbles in the system. To support, you can come in here and you can squeeze these tubes. It'll help get some of the bubbles out of the system. And once all the air is out of the system, there's no more bubbles, we'll go ahead and suck the rest of the coolant out of there, and the job will be done. Go ahead and put on these beauty covers, obviously. That's just a bunch of 10mm bolts. That just pushes on, and that's just a bunch of clips. So yeah, should take 10-20 minutes for the coolant to burp, and the job is completed. Appreciate you guys watching the video. This is probably one of the first videos on the channel, so if you want to see more content like this, like, subscribe, and come back for more. In the near future, I might be doing a engine swap on my Q50. I have a porous block, so gonna need a new long block. If that ever comes, then we will record a engine swap video on the VR30 Q50. All right, guys, thanks for watching.